Way up above Europe, up towards the North Pole, is the Norwegian archipelago of Svalbard, just touching 80 degrees north. The biggest island here is Spitsbergen. This is where the largest permanent settlement called Longyearbyen is. The plan itself is very simple. The two of us are going to kayak north from Longyearbyen, alone and unsupported, hoping to reach the top of the archipelago. It's going to be a 650-kilometre round trip. We have allowed ourselves 1 month to get there and to get back again before the Norwegian authorities trigger a search and rescue for us. There's going to be no regular way of keeping people up to date with where we are or how we are until we get back. Importantly, we also want to do this without getting eaten. There's a reasonable risk we may encounter a polar bear along the coast. In simple terms for this story, a polar bear is a half-ton predator that can just run a lot faster than we can. Because we'll be doing this trip in the summertime when most of the sea ice will have melted, the bears won't be hunting on the ice. They'll be on land and they'll be hungry. So, unusually for Brits, we're carrying firearms. The polar bear is a protected species, so something extreme would have had to have happened if we start shooting. So while we really hope to see a bear in the wild, we also really hope we won't. We've done our research, but this could genuinely be a terrible idea. When we get to the northernmost point, we'll only be 1,000 kilometres from the North Pole itself. So that, in a nutshell, is the plan. What could possibly go wrong? A lot of our preparation for this voyage comes from this absolutely brilliant book, Guide to Spitsbergen, by Andreas Umbright. We both actually call this book Everything Will Kill You, but you'll have a lovely time, because that's the impression it gives of what lies ahead of us. Of particular note for kayakers, it says that up to 2/3 of paddlers end up in rescue operations. 2/3. Reasons for rescue include polar bears damaging the kayaks, exhaustion, or simply not getting back in the time expected. Additional problems listed, apart from the bears, the exhaustion, and not getting back in time, are wind, waves, damage from rocks, drift ice, and even walruses. We are going to get onto all of these problems before we're done with this story. Also, YouTube, Facebook, iPhones, and all the rest are still years from being invented in 2001. So it's hard for me to remember now who we recorded all this for at the time. Who were we actually vlogging for?
Let's see, chat.
Well, it all depends on the gun. I mean, if I miss, it's not my fault. You ready?
At some point, as with any trip out to sea, you have to believe you've done enough. It's time to go. These sea kayaks are made of Kevlar carbon. They're about 5.5 metres long, that's about 17.5 feet. They weigh about 24 kilos, or 53 pounds, when they're empty. But packed as they are here, with everything we need for at least a month ahead, they now weigh around 60 kilos, or 130 pounds each. It takes the two of us to fully lift one of them, and they sit quite deep in the water. For the month ahead, we're going to be cramped into these cockpits for 6 to 8 hours a day, dragging all this weight through the ocean with us. We aren't carrying enough food calories per day though, so I for one am going to lose 10% of my body weight before this is all over. Our start here is calm and warm. The ocean itself is about 2 degrees centigrade, or 36 degrees Fahrenheit, which is why we're both wearing dry suits all day. But the weather is hot. The locals in Longyearbyen told us that this fjord had been surprisingly free of sea ice during the winter. What we don't yet know is that ahead of us, further north, it's going to swing colder than average again soon. Our first campsite is a bit of a surprise too.
We've stopped in this place which looks very much like an old Russian mining, I was going to say town, but it isn't really a town, it's more 5 decrepit little buildings and a hammer and sickle on the beach. Because it's so much fun and so depressing, we think we will stay here the night, because you don't get to do that often.
Well, there's blue patches.
See any bears?
No.
It's hot up
It's
north.
like a, nice spring day, or a nice summer's day in Scotland.
Apart from the snow and the glaciers.
Yeah. What will happen is we'll be cursing that it's too hot at the moment, and then it'll get really cold, and we won't believe how ungrateful we were.
Well, we've found found somewhere marginally less windy, and we've put a tent up. And I say marginal because it's still very windy outside, but apart from that, it's a reasonably pleasant spot. And
what's pleasant about it?
the sun's shining, which is really nice. Anyway, but enough
That's my opinion anyway.
Enough about us and our wind. It's probably hotter than it is in England at the moment. What do you say to that, Mr. Lowe?
Cool hot.
Sunday the 17th of June, and last night we camped in front of this enormous glacier, off which a slightly chilly wind is coming, I have to say. And apart from that though, the weather again is absolutely boiling. So we've...
I do like to be beside the seaside. Oh, I do like to be beside the sea. Sorry, Carrot, continue. Hot.
This man is a fool.
Yeah, too long. No, I was just going to say the ice is getting closer. That's the way out.
So today we're going north as usual, probably about another 30 kilometres or so, up that way, and camping somewhere near a spit of land, where we may have to do some kayak dragging. Steve did say it sounded all a bit like Rice Krispies, and indeed it does. Very, very odd. All these bergs have also drifted out of the fjord, and they're all drifted out into the main sound. So it's probable that some days the sound is actually full of ice, and some days it's just empty like it was yesterday. It probably all depends on the wind. So we'll probably find a few surprises as we go up the coast. Anyway, Steve's about half a kilometre ahead of me now, so I'm going to go and catch up. Well, we've just arrived on this sandbank after canoeing from the south through an unusual amount of sea ice, and the whole idea here was that we were going to pull up onto this sandbank and port the kayaks over the sandbank and into the lagoon on the other side, so that we could cut out going all the way to the end of this peninsula, which you can see here. And the real problem is that when we look at the lagoon that we wanted to kayak over as a shortcut, we can see that the whole thing is just ice all the way. I just had a quick walk on that, and it's about 2 foot thick of snow, and the rest is all ice, and it's quite strange really. I just didn't expect it still to be frozen over. So we're kind of stuffed, and that means we're going to camp here tonight, and tomorrow morning we're going to have to go the long way round, which is all the way to the left of the picture now, to the end of the point, and all the way back to the position you can see in front of us now, which will be a round trip for about 10 kilometres rather than the 3 or so it is straight across.
Healthy food for active people. I'll leave that there for you. I'm going to tuck into mine. Just like it's freshly made today.
So Stephen,
Yes, Simon.
what are you modelling in bed for us tonight?
Well, tonight I've got my nightcap, which goes very nicely over the eyes, shut the horrible light out. A little bit of covering for the ears to keep the noise of those damn birds out of my ears. I'm wearing, let's see, 1 layer, 2 layers, only 3 layers tonight. My trousers and my socks. They're nice synthetic sleeping bag.
Thermal underwear?
I haven't got my thermal underwear on now.
There are two important things to know about Steve's sleeping attire. They are both to do with his hat and not to do with his underwear. Firstly, he's sleeping with his hat down over his eyes. At this time of year, the sun never sets. It just spins around us, going round and round the horizon 24/7. In fact, we've quickly stopped worrying about what time it is. So this shot is filmed at about 2 a.m, because that's just the time we finished up for the day, but it will never get dark. Secondly, Steve is sleeping with his hat pulled down over his ears as well. At this time of year, the seabirds are in their very short summer breeding season, and because it never gets dark, at no point do the nesting colonies stop screeching. In fact, of all the wildlife we encounter, they are really the hardest to deal with.
Those are morning visitors. Actually, they're really cute. And those are the bastards that kept us up all night. Where are they? Well, kept Simon up all night anyway.
Well, it's the morning of the 20th of June, or actually it's the afternoon of 20th of June, and I had a slightly sleepless night because I seem to have acquired a great ache in my shoulder, on my left shoulder, which kept me up some of the night and made it kind of hard to sleep. And it seems to be easing off a bit. I don't know how I did it. It's probably something embarrassing like getting into the tent or getting my dry suit off, or pulling my sleeping bag zip up or something like that, because it didn't feel bad after I finished kayaking. Anyway, the weather's eased up a bit, so we're going out anyway, and if I feel really bad, we'll come back in again. How are you this morning, Mr. Lowe?
I'm perfectly okay. No extra pains apart from my hip. That's an old wall wound.
Chilblains.
Chilblains in my ears. A funny lump in my nose. That's about it, really. Whoa! It's just Simon dragging his kayak up to where we're going to camp, which is up there somewhere, because it's the only bit of non-rocky flat ground we can find. We don't really fancy camping on the snow, so we need the kayaks near us, so we have to walk so far to put up the perimeter and get food and stuff. And for some reason we thought this would be so much easier. There he goes. It's nearly there. It's my turn next. Maybe I should go and help him. Turn that thing off.
So the place we're going to camp is just up the slope here, and the view around here is particularly impressive. Up above us we've got this large peak here, which is just absolutely screaming with seabirds. They're just swarming about it way up there, and round behind us we've got more mountainside, and then facing east we have this little itty bitty glacier here coming down the slope into a small inlet, which is the inlet right next to the one we're in, so we might go and have a look at that later. Well, we're on our way to see the glacier. I'm not to my butt in snow.
Which way? Around. Okay. I give up.
And out there's the headland, which we want to round tomorrow morning. After the headland there's a crossing of a fjord, Magdalene Fjord, and from then, after that, it'll be only one more day until we get to the top of Svalbard.
What?
Tell me about your night.
Sporadic sleeping, got up by can't go. So, and now it's raining, and the occasional gust still. So I'm staying here. I'm not going nowhere. I'm hungry. The trouble is the breakfast and the kayaks, which is down there somewhere. All we've got is a bag of dried fruit, which we're saving for later. We could be here for days.
Well, I suppose we're in a lull. I could run down and get something.
What? Are you mad? Oh no, we'll starve. Anyway, like you say, no work, no food. We've now been in the tent for about 20 hours, and the rain and the wind hasn't let up. Simon needed a wee, so he kindly offered to go and get some food from the kayak, and there he is, braving the elements. And me, I'm still in here, nice and dry, warm, having a cigarette. How you doing, Simon?
Here's a random selection of stuff. Well, it's now the 22nd of June and the wind has died down quite a lot. It's still raining, but since the wind's died down, we think we'll go out anyway and go a bit further north. Steve's been in the tent here without getting out for about 40 hours, which I find extremely impressive. And what I find even more impressive is in all that time he hasn't peed. Well, we have a small problem here as I was just parking my boat on the beach here, and the front of the front hatch is was rather full of water. I've taken a lot out, but I've got the rest to suck out now. And we think it's because the bulkhead by my feet is leaking slightly, and all the water that filled the cockpit over the storm when I took it down to the beach has all gone through under the bulkhead and gone into there, which means my sleeping bag's a bit damp, but not too damp, and my book's a bit wet, and our first aid manual is very, very wet. How's your hatch, Steve?
Lovely and dry.
Well, we've done about 14 kilometres, but we've come in on this horrible little beach here because the wind was getting up to about a force 6 or so, and it was the best beach in sight, so we chose it. And even though the wind's died down a bit and we could probably go on a bit further, we think it's probably a bit too risky, so we're going to camp. And what intrigues me most is that the weather here must get so rough sometimes, because how the hell do all these logs get way up here when the sea level is all the way down there? How do you feel, Mr. Lowe?
I feel dandy. I love this place. You're an edible.
Is there another restaurant?
No.
So this is behind our camp of last night, and it's Hamburg Bay, which was the site of a whaling station of the good people of Hamburg in the late 1600s. And the only thing that we can see standing here still is this little hut in the corner, which we think is probably an old trapper's hut rather than part of the whaling station. Can't see any sign of any other buildings. What an awful place. And this is the trapper's hut. Lovely piece of work. We have noticed that Kilroy was here.
I think there's some booze in that bottle. Showing big teeth anyway.
Chihuahua.
Yeah.
And up on the hill behind the hut, there's a cairn. And up here by the cairn, we found a couple of graves, presumably of whalers, I guess, who's
Billy Bob the Whaler.
Billy Bob the Whaler. Obviously, a couple of guys who had not as much fun as everyone else in their group. They're not big, are they? They're neither wide nor tall. Can't really dig a hole to bury anyone here. Anyway, we're off.
It's battling forward.
Let's go. We're going north as usual. The weather's improved slightly. The barometer's rising. It's a bit cold though. About 6 degrees, 5 degrees. It's about 4 compared to yesterday. It's lovely out. Kayaks on the beach. We just have to find a nice place to launch, and then we'll head off up this way. Round the corner, and within about 4 or 5 hours we should be in some calmer water. Well, Steve's having trouble with his skeg again. The cable was kinked just there, so we've unkinked it, and unfortunately it's got so many kinks in it now, he's just having a bit of trouble stringing it back onto the hand control. But he likes a good challenge. Turned out nice again. I beg your pardon.
Fingers are cold.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, there's something very dark coming. It's a storm from that way. If we go around this way, there's a possibility of some blue sky. It's 10 PM and we're looking for a place to camp, probably on this island up here. We should be in bed by 12 if we're lucky, or maybe 1. And then tomorrow it's a short day up to the top, the furthest point of the island we can possibly reach. And then we're going home. Steve! Walrus! Underneath me! Jesus Christ!
Our Everything Will Kill You book has a lot to say about walruses. For example, it tells us that even a polar bear will show grudging respect for a large walrus. But of interest to me on this particular evening regarding walruses and kayaks together, it says quite plainly, if you upset one, you have no chance. Luckily, this one appears simply delighted to see me, so in fact nothing terrible happens, and we keep moving on.
Look happy.
Can't I just look reflective and deep?
Okay, try that. Now look hungry. Date, Mr. Lowe.
Date is Sunday the 24th of June.
Thank you very much. This is as far north as we're going to go. To my right, the North Pole, somewhere out there. Down to our south, over here, is the bulk of the mainland of Svalbard. And at the very middle of the picture, you can see the glacier, which was near where we camped last night. But it also helps that the clouds have gone. It's quite warm today. Steve, tell us the way it is.
It's windy. It wasn't windy when we started. We went to the northest bit that we were going to go to. And then we thought, well, seeing as we've got this far, we'll just go around the corner and camp where actually it's like in the next fjord down. I will show you on the map where we've been, but it's a bit wrinkled. And now we're in here, the other side of the wrinkle. The wrinkle is kind of symbolic, this big lump to get over. But we should really be here. And that was going to take us 2 hours. We started kayaking at 4 o'clock and finished at 12. So there you go.
Time now?
Time now is 2:10 in the morning, that is. Anyway, on the way south.
At the door, we get out for a view. It's not too bad. Windy. And there's the sea. But inside, it's just nicer, quieter, warmer, more to the point. And here's the hovel we live in. Always keep a rifle between your beds, just in case. 10 PM-ish, and we've come to the end of another 30-kilometre day, and we're quite knackered. But despite the fact we're tired, we knew that you people there on the sofa would appreciate it if we showed you our end-of-day routine, how we set up camp and how we then get up in the morning, just so you know. So we're going to go in here somewhere on this little spit. It looks reasonably flat on the top, and then we'll probably hum and ha for a bit and put the tent up. Getting out the kayak at the end of the day after 8 hours of sitting on your ass paddling is actually quite hard work. It's like unfolding yourself from a seat on an aeroplane after going transatlantic while paddling all the way. Point your heads off, get some warm clothes on, find a spot to put the tent. And the other thing we need, of course, is our trusty rifle, and then off up the slope. Look, a river. Tent here. Well, it's going to be a pain in the arse carrying things up from the beach, but it's the best we're going to get, and we're too knackered to go any further. This is Magdalen Fjord, which apparently is a hot tourist destination, although it seems rather light on tourists this evening. Well, there you go, another half hour of struggling, and we've managed to drag the kayaks up from the beach, somewhere where we can see them and somewhere we can get all that stuff out of them. What is it?
Yeah, rib of a whale.
Rib of a whale, tusk of an enormous walrus, bent tusk of a narwhal, or tooth of a really fearsome mountain mouse. Ta-da! Okay, well that's the tent done. And over there somewhere, over by the kayaks, Steve, our chef, is making dinner.
Ash in every meal.
Free of charge.
Cooking.
Voila! Tonight we're having chicken korma.
That's correct.
Excellent. Can I have a Chianti with that?
No.
Hooray, dinner's ready. Now 11:30 p.m. Scan for polar bears. Quick polar bear 360. No, 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 don't see any there. No, 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 no. Nobody's there. No, 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 no. No. We're alright. If anybody in the audience saw a polar bear, please write in. That looks really good, Steve. I bet you could do 30 kilometers a day just on that alone. That and a Mars bar.
Yep, that's what you need.
Freshly selected dehydrated fruit. Keep you on the go, isn't it, Steve?
Keeps you regular.
And the last thing I do is string the two kayaks together with this here rape alarm, which if the boats get pulled apart by someone or something investigating them, then we might have a faint chance of hearing them.
The perimeter is a boundary outside our tent that will make a sharp noise when a large animal crosses it. This should wake us up, although in practice we later find that Steve can sleep comfortably through the noise, multiple times. We were told that the fireworks should also frighten the polar bears, but we're less confident about this bit.
So, there. This screws onto the bottom. So we get to here, and then we tie this around this post, and we do the same for the other four sides. And theoretically, any bear who comes over the tripwire makes the little thing on the end there go pop.
In the end, all our camps get laid out the same way. The tent is pitched wherever we can, and it's protected by the bear alarm perimeter. The kayaks are then left down by the shore, which is where we also cook and eat. We try to keep all food away from where we sleep. Steve points out that our unwashed bodies in the tent probably smell a lot more interesting than the dehydrated food, which is bagged and sealed back in the kayaks. But out of paranoia, we stick to this general plan.
Right, now we're inside the perimeter for the night. All I have to do is carefully remove this pin. Okay, so that's armed for the night.
And now what you see now is someone going through the
Right.
nightly rigmarole of extricating himself from his dry suit,
Let's say
which is always a fun thing to watch. It's like a really, really bad Houdini act.
Actually, I do actually hate this part of the day more than any other part of the day. If my sleeping bag were bigger, I'd just...
Lovely. Your
So
feet cold.
So that's no. Not too bad actually.
Go, Simon, go!
Well, I'm trapped with my braces. Going up or off. Okay, I'm gonna start your way. Now, what's your recommended technique?
Pulling the pull that up as far as it will go. Then try and get the heel, the actual seal bit over your heel, and then it should just slide. But it doesn't mind anyway. See, this is why we're so exhausted. Oh no, you see that? Just don't think that's a good way to go.
No, it's the only way. It's the only way it works.
Hey, one red top.
It's really strange on my stomach muscles.
Yeah. It's like it's all part of the Svalbard calorie-controlled exercise plan.
Yes. Yay! Right. Well, it's that time of day where I write my journal, and we've just checked, and having decided to camp, come in and camp at about 10 o'clock. It's now just about 1 o'clock, which just goes to show we spend 3 hours coming off the sea and putting up camp. As Steve just pointed out, we spend at least that in the morning, taking the tent down again and packing up again, which is 6 hours a day, just faffing about. And the other good news is, since it's now been the 14th day, I think, and therefore we owe ourselves a sniff of whiskey.
Might even sit up for that.
You may take the first sniff there. We should have bought 4 more gallons of that. Looks like we're not going to be able to celebrate week 3.
Yeah, but we'll celebrate week 4 extra.
So if you have a meal when you get back, what are you going to have? One thing I've noticed reading the books is that when you read the books and they come to a bit in it where someone's having a meal, I always read that bit really interested.
Oh yeah.
I know, and the waiter came out and offered them like hot white bread or whatever.
Yeah, there's a bit in one of the books where it's like eating bacon sandwiches and thought, ooh.
Rebus, in your Rebus book, he's like got nothing better to eat for the evening, so he has a toasted cheese sandwich.
Yeah, that sounded good, didn't it?
Yeah. How close are we to cheese on toast?
About 2 weeks away.
Sunday, the 25th June 2001. Steve proving to be a dead weight. Can't carry him anymore. Decided to kill him and be done with it. Have poisoned his muesli. We'll bury him under a big rock, so no one can ever find his remains. I get to keep his big knife, which I have much coveted over the last fortnight. Am I disturbing you?
No, not at all.
Look, it's 11:20. It's a lion. And how did you sleep?
Well, once I got to sleep, it was fine. My hands and feet were really itchy and painful.
Amputation?
Yeah, I think so.
The sky is blue. I can see a couple of white caps further out. I think the wind's coming from the west. Doesn't look too bad. Steve's just putting the safeties back on the tripwire so that we can trip over them in comfort. Now look, we're just being paid a visit. by a Svalbard reindeer. Here is his friend. I haven't seen any of these reindeer in ages actually this far north. We thought they'd all stuck further south where it's a bit warmer. See, this pair are hardy. What have we got for us today, Steve?
Got muesli,
Muesli,
hot chocolate,
hot chocolate.
and if you're lucky, there might be a little bit of tea left.
What if I don't like muesli anymore?
I'll eat yours.
It's going to be today's flask of tea. Breakfast is done. We've been emptying the tent again, ready to pack the kayaks. Steve's had his morning dump and I'm just off for mine. Right. Bog roll, trowel, rifle. I'm off. Now we take the tent down. Or better still, Steve takes the tent down and I watch him. You're doing really well.
All I need is your approval.
It's 2:30, we're all shipshape, and now we have to drag the kayaks over all the rocks and down back to the beach, and then we're off to that headland over there. Yesterday was a hard day's kayaking as it turned out, but we ended up in a nice spot at the bottom of this enormous glacier here. And I say enormous, it's not actually huge by world standards, but it's huge by my standards. And it's kind of hard to believe, but I'm standing near one end, and the far end that you can see over there now is about 4 to 5 kilometers away. So this is 4 to 5 kilometers of ice, a couple of 100 meters high, just stacked at the bottom of this valley. And up in the mountains behind where all the cloud is, Svalbard has a permanent ice cap, and all this ice leaks down the mountains, kind of like cold custard, I guess, squeezing through the gaps until it reaches the sea. And some of them don't quite reach the sea, and some like this just end up in these large ice faces here, and off the ice faces come lots and lots of little icebergs, and occasionally noises like thunder and great crashings as bits and pieces fall back into the water. There's some icebergs there in the water, waiting to float out with the tide. So we've ended up camped in this bay here, which is quite pleasant. It's a bit of a grey day. Our tent just down the slope, and Steve, master of fire, keeping us warm down in the corner. The only other thing we've noticed here is that the tides have been getting larger and larger and larger, so we're actually seeing some sandy beach for the first time in a long time. Tide's very low at the moment. What we're going to do today is we're going to wait for it to come up, and then as it goes down again we're going to catch the tide out, and we're going to head south round this headland.
Even in the Arctic, a man must have standards.
I think so.
This is Simon having a weekly shave.
Water's going cold. There, it's much better. I'm beautiful again. Okay, here's a fresh problem. When I was taking the dry suit off last night, this is the neck seal where my head pops through. It's split all the way down there. And I've glued it back together, and now we're going to tape it up as well and hope for the best. Because without a neck seal, if I put my head underwater, all the water fills the suit up, which makes the whole thing useless. Anyway, we'll do our best, and failing that, I'm going to put it on, and Steve's going to wrap gaffer tape around my head. You'll have it.
Mr. Spitzbergen. At least you can have fun. Enjoy the beach. All kinds of water sports can be enjoyed here.
I like it. I like it already. Well, this has to be a vision of a cold hell. We're here, which is nice. Great, that. A rock on its own. And when you're in sunny Svalbard, you can stay in this delightful residence. Note the scenic scenery. In fact, this area was so sought after that previous developers built this. This is a fire. There's not no heat.
Remember, you can only have fun. Spitsbergen.
Today is Saturday, the 30th of June, and we are having the day off because we deserve a holiday. And our holiday camp for this year is what the English whalers used to call Comfortless Cove, which we thought was a nice spot, so we thought we'd stay. The day's a bit grey anyway, so it was a good day just to stay in bed and do nothing. It's the evening now though, and we've popped outside so we can have a spot of dinner and a campfire. So you can't stay in all day, need a bit of fresh air. This is my esteemed colleague Mr. Lowe. My esteemed colleague Mr. Lowe, who's preparing dinner today. What are we going to have, Steve?
Having chicken korma with naan bread.
Oh yeah. Yes, I have.
Or slightly burned
Flour.
flour. I have a plan.
We're also in the dark because we're a bit knackered. And the worst artifact I have to show you is Steve's hands. Show us your hands, Steve.
It's just one of them.
Just one of them chilblain days for Steve's hands. So it kind of stays in. I have to show you his nose as well. Show us your nose, Steve.
Is that still looking bad?
Oh no, it looks excellent. It'll come out really nicely. Stay still. Steve's chilblained nose.
You want to see my ears?
Yeah, show us your ears, Steve. The left one's good. Yeah. Move your hand. That's great. Thank you. Just so the folks home know.
It's all fun and laughs out here, you know.
How are you going to do the naan bread then?
I'm going to mix up some flour and salt with some water in a bag, knead it for ages, and I'm going to slap it on some hot stones.
Very good. Very tasty.
Bit of butter with that.
Apart from Steve's extremities, the other broken thing so far is Steve's front hatch now leaks. It's from somewhere, we're not sure where. Possibly because he's gashed the front of his kayak. Still, nothing to worry about, I'm sure. And my front hatch leaks because my bulkhead is splitting away, and my middle hatch leaks probably for the same reason. And apart from that, kayaks seem fine. Our tent is doing fine, except down here in the corner where we seem to have acquired a gash in the fly sheet. Again, not too bad. And the neck seal of my dry suit has pretty much fallen apart completely. I patched it twice, there and here, and then it ripped again here, so I've actually given up on that, and I've chopped the top off my stuff sack for my sleeping bag to create this lovely little neck piece here, which I'm using instead, and I just glued it all the way around the edge. Revolutionary design, and the only trouble is I then have to draw this string around my neck. It sort of chokes me off, and just for fashion I've kept the little flap on top. Isn't that sweet? This is Prince Carl's land from a distance. Today's the 1st, isn't it?
Yeah, Sunday the
1st of July. We are canoeing south, as you do. So, when we were last at this spot 2 weeks ago, the water just behind me was frozen over. and we're hoping it's thawed out in the last 2 weeks, which will give us a shortcut. Should save us an 8-kilometre detour or thereabouts. So we're just going to go and find out whether it's still frozen or not.
There's water!
Well, that's not what I expected. That's not what I expected.
What is the fly? It has melted. It's a good thing.
Well, let's go around. Well, last time this was all ice. It looks like it's all melted and all washed away. It's not a freaking lagoon after all. Well, let's go that way then. That'll be fun. I'll pay for it.
Now, Simon.
Well, we're both frozen. It's really cold, and we were just putting the tent up so that we could hide behind it. And as we're putting it up, disaster has struck. Somewhere, where is it? The tent pole's broken in the middle. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to. We haven't got any spares. We're going to have to chop that section out and stick it near one of the ends where it needs to bend less. I put one of the end sections in the middle one and then gaffer tape the broken one, which is something we really don't want to be doing right now because we want to be in the tent having a nice cup of tea. Ta-da! Disaster averted. We've patched the pole somewhere under here, patched it here, and put a different section up here. Probably hold together. Hurrah!
Half my ice collection.
We're just melting some glacier ice. There's no fresh water around here. Tell me about your day, Steve.
It was fine this morning. Well, what I call this morning. First couple of hours was fine until we discovered that we couldn't cross the lagoon, the mythical lagoon, which is either ice or nothing. But I just found the what's going on with that spit really frustrating because it just kind of disappeared into the horizon and never ended. And where I thought it was going to end was just probably about halfway. It just went on and on and on. Then we got around the corner and it was really rough with a very strong wind. Then I got colder and colder and colder. My back hurt, my arms hurt, and then we got here and it was really cold and then the tent broke. Great day. It's just amazing how, because you're a bit cold when you're in the kayak, but as soon as you get out, and even though you've got fully dressed, you still continue to lose heat. And there's nothing you can do about it. Running around just doesn't help. I might as well just stand there and take it. What kind of stuff? My feet are probably the coldest they've been today. But I don't really understand why, because there's no wind in my kayak. Cooling them down. So is the sea colder, or is it just because I was cold?
It's just because you're cold.
My feet just gave up and said, well, I'm shutting the blood off to these. We don't need these. They're just useless. Just lying here. Still.
You need more socks.
Yeah, but then it's difficult to get your dry suit off. I'm saving my socks for a special occasion.
There's not going to be a special occasion.
Might have visitors. Put my dry socks on. So how was your day, Mr. Robinson?
My day was excellent.
Yeah?
It started out being really warm and boring. And as the day went on, it just got colder and colder and colder until my hands went numb. Tent seems to hold up, look.
Yep.
It's perfect. Nothing a bit of gaffer tape won't fix.
Yep, we're running out of gaffer tape though. We've got 10 days to go.
Well, we must be running out of things to break, surely.
Don't say that.
It's Tuesday, the 3rd of July. And here it is, another rough day in the Arctic. How do you stay upright in this weather, Steve?
I don't know, it's years and years of hard learning. Just natural skill.
It's all balance, is it?
Yeah, it's all in the hips.
No fish.
No fish.
Hello people. You could be forgiven for thinking that nothing grows around here. But strangely enough, some stuff does, although nothing above the height of my big toe. For a start, Steve grows. Don't you, Steve?
What?
You're alive, aren't you?
I'm alive, yeah.
There you go. You've got one of those. Nice bit of wildlife. This is all moraine from when that glacier back there used to be a bit closer. Yeah? Pardon?
Not more moraine.
Moraine. We live for moraine. And over here in moraine world, look, the little flowers. Ah, see? It's not all a complete desert. Over on the slopes over here, faint hint of colour where there's lots and lots of the little flowers growing. Halfway through the night we were woken up by one of the tripwire alarms outside the tent, and it was just a reindeer that had blundered into the tripwire, and then took both of us ages to get back to sleep, and so we've woken up late, and we've also been spending some time here looking at our routes for the next few days, and because of that we're rather behind schedule, but we think we're going to go along the north side of Eastfjorden before crossing back to Longyearbyen, and we have a route which we think gives us 2 days spare for bad weather. Here are some fascinating facts about our campsite. When we came in, Steve said, "What's that door in the hillside over there?" And indeed, it looks like a little hole. Just about long enough to lie down inside. And meanwhile, here on the beach we have this lovely piece of whalebone. There's a particularly fine antler, and what we have to assume is some kind of vertebrae from a whale or some such. This terrible creature on the beach lost all ability to speak human language. Today, for the first time ever, because it's calm, cameras are being allowed to view the lunchtime ceremony. Bits you've missed so far: this hatch back here had the lunch in it. The lunch is now in front of Steve, who's putting out his fishing line. And just so that we don't drift apart, we've clipped ourselves together at the back.
Simon, why am I putting out the fishing line?
Steve's putting out the fishing line to prove his theory that there are no fish.
Occasionally works as a good anchor though. Catch hold of some weeds.
First of all is the sacred salami ceremony. We use the knife,
Rusty knife.
and a stick of salami. And by measuring how far we got through the salami, we know what day it is.
We have 8 days supply of salami left.
Oh,
But I know that we've got 2 days extra, so it means that we have 6 days to go.
this is nice.
Of course, I could work it out the other way around, that we've eaten 6 salamis, and 6 times 4 is 24, which means we've had 24 lunches.
Yeah.
Bill or Hillary?
Hillary.
Will you get the large one again?
Yeah, I win every time. You sure you don't want it?
Yeah,
Sure. You're a big man.
I'm a big man, but you know, so you got to play the game.
And now, the peanuts. A Mars bar. Not a large Mars bar, a snack-sized Mars bar.
It's not one of those really little ones.
It's not really small.
It's not a fun size.
It's not normal size. It's not giant bag size, big size. It's snack size. As long as your finger.
Golden nectar.
And how many calories is that?
I don't know, but it kills your appetite really well.
Got any fish yet? It's 3 in the morning and one of our tripwires has just gone, but we think it may just have been the wind since Steve's gone out to fix it, and I don't think it's been eaten yet. I'll tell you the folks back home what's going on. Is it windy?
Isn't it?
You fixed it.
Fixed it. We're now protected by a triangle. So much more efficient than a square after all. It's not raining. Probably dried off a bit now.
Is it not raining?
No.
But what's that spattering noise against the side of the tent?
The insects.
Hello, it's Wednesday the 11th of July and we're back in the fjord by Longyearbyen, and we've got 1 day spare, so we're not going to go into Longyearbyen today, we're going to go into tomorrow, which means we're going to camp tonight on the shore, looking across at all the lovely warm people and all their hot delicious fatty food, and but we're happy. Tomorrow the sea will be as smooth as a baby's bottom. So if you managed to go out to eat tomorrow night, what would you eat? Anything.
I really don't know.
Depends what's on the menu.
Yeah, it depends what's on the menu. My main cravings are some really simple things like cherry pie, but also freshly baked bread would be really nice. I'm actually quite tempted by fish, seafood for some reason. Maybe it's
because you haven't had them in a while.
Yeah, something that's been eluding me. How about you?
Something fatty with chips. Not after anything sophisticated.
Looking forward to cooking again. Proper cooking. Doing something other than just boiling up a pan of hot water, pouring it in a bag.
Quite like a cooked breakfast.
Cooked breakfast would be good. Proper English breakfast. The glaciers look good.
My God, a glacier!
After a couple of days you won't see a glacier for a long, long time. It means so much part of your life for so long.
Unless something's gone terribly wrong at home.
So I could be in a Clint Eastwood movie.
There's two kinds of people in this world. Men with guns, and them what dig. Rosebud. That's good, that was.
Yeah, very good.